So this video is a continuation of the last one, or the previous one if you want to say. And in the last video I made a mistake, and if you guys did realize that mistake, I said that these two values over here are the two values that when you add up gives B, and when you multiply gives C. Sorry for that mistake. These are not those values that when you multiply gives C and when you add give B. These are the values of X that when you substitute any of these values in X, and I mean one of them at a time. So if you use negative 0.27 X squared, you must use negative 0.27 in this X as well. Okay, when you do that you will get 0 or something very close to 0, like maybe 0.01 or 0.05 or something like that, because we're rounding to 2 decimal places, which is not as accurate as more decimal or significant figures. Okay, so in this video anyway, I am going to be solving 2 more examples using the quadratic formula. So the first one we've got up is x squared minus 7x, x squared minus 7x plus 2 is equal to 0. Now we have all the all the conditions met, where basically this whole expression, algebraic expression, is equal to 0. So now we can carry on with our calculation. First we need to identify what A is, what B is, what C is. Okay, now when we do so, we will arrive at the conclusion that A is equal to 1, because there is a coefficient but we don't write 1 next to a variable. B would be equal to negative 7, and C lastly is equal to 2. So now we're going to input this or substitute these values in the quadratic equation, and when we do so we would get something like this. So we'd get x is equal to minus B, and this is a common mistake which many people make. The minus, okay, is not part of the B. Okay, it's a separate it's separated from the B. So if B is a negative value, let's say negative 1, so then you have to write it like this. Okay, the minus is, it doesn't come with the B. Okay, so and therefore since B is a negative value, you have to write minus 7 plus minus the square root of B squared, which is in this case 1, or sorry, negative 7 squared, minus 4A, which is 1, C, which is 2, all of this over 2A, which is basically 1, or sorry, 2. Oh my god. Now when we do simplify that, as you know, two minuses or two negative signs, they cancel out to make a positive sign. So we get plus 7, or we can just write 7 if you want. So I'll just 7 plus minus the square root of, now 7 squared is, or negative 7 squared is basically negative 7 times negative 7, which is 49. Two negative numbers, when you multiply them, it becomes a positive number. So 49 minus 4 times 1 times 2. 4 times 1 is 4, 4 times 2 is 8, so therefore 49 minus 8. Now 49 minus 8 is equal to 41, and this is over 2. Okay, now we come to the point where we have to find out what x is when this is positive, and what x is when this is, or when the value that is next to the integer, or that is next to the square root of the quadratic change, is plus or minus. Okay, so therefore this is divided up into 2 parts. So when x is equal to 7 plus the square root of 41 all over 2, and when x is equal to 7 minus the square root of 41 all over 2. Now when you do solve for that, as I said, we don't round in this case. We don't like round what square root of 41 is equal to, and then add that to 7 and then divide it by 2. It's easier or more accurate to use your calculator. So you do 7 plus the square root of 41. This is for the first case where x is equal to, or the what do we call this, when the sign is positive or plus, okay, and denominator is 2, and therefore when the sign is positive, we get x is equal to 6.70, 6.7, okay, and that's to 2 decimal places. Now the 0 doesn't really need to be counted, but 2 decimal places, I guess so, yeah. Now we do the same thing over here where the sign is negative, and that would give us x is equal to, when you round it to 2 decimal places, you get 0.1, 0. Or actually, let me just show you what happens over here. It's 9.8, okay. This is when to 3 decimal places. However, when you do it to 2, this has to be counted, and since this is greater than 5, so then you add 1 over here. Now since this becomes 0, you add another 1 over here, it becomes 0.3, so x is equal to 0.3. so these are the two values for x in order when you substitute them in this over here, you get 0. Okay, so now we'll move on to the second one where a, or the coefficient of x squared, which is a, is not equal to 1. So that let's that 2x squared plus 11x plus 5, nothing, no difference. You just have a is now not equal to 1, so you carry out the same procedures. Algebraic expression is equal to 0. Okay, so now we carry on. We identify a, b, c, and when you do so, we realize a is equal to 2, b is equal to 11, c is equal to 5. Okay, we have identified that. We substitute that into the quadratic equation. So x is equal to, or let me use blue because which color should I use? Let's use purple. Okay, so x is equal to negative b is 11, yeah, b plus minus the square root of b squared, which is 11 squared, minus 4 multiplied by a, which is 2, c, which is 5, and all of this over 2 times a, which is 2. So okay, now when you simplify that, you get x is equal to negative 11 plus minus the square root of 11 squared. When you multiply it, or 11 times 11 is 121. So you subtract that from, or let's solve this over here. So when you do that, you get negative 4, negative 8, negative 40. Okay, so 120 minus 40 is equal to 81. Now 80, all of this, you put this over 4. Now we have this, we have put it in the form where we have a number plus minus the square root of a number over the simplified version of the denominator. So therefore this splits up into 2. Okay, alright. Okay, so now we have 2 is equal to negative 11 plus the square root of 81 over 4, and then we use the second one where the sign is negative minus the square root, the square root of 81 over 4. Now in the first case where we have a positive sign, that would be negative 11 plus the square root of 81, and the reason why we're doing this is to get a more accurate answer. And when you round in the case, when you round in this case, you get a very long, or the answer is long, or there's a lot of difference between the real answer and this answer. Okay, so in this case x would be equal to negative 0.5, and this is the exact answer. Okay, and when the sign is negative, you get negative 5. Okay, now this was a pretty straightforward and clear answers, no need to round, you get the answer, and therefore these are the two answers that when you substitute in this equation, you will get 0. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please do like, share, subscribe, and comment.